coming on the air with a huge storm that is hitting from Texas to Illinois that could bring tornadoes to parts of the South. It's going to mess up travel plans right as airlines are taking a victory lap for what they're calling a super successful Thanksgiving. We've got more on what to expect in a second. Plus, an explosive scene on Hawaii's Big Island after the world's largest volcano erupted this morning. We're going to show you some of those bananas images we're seeing from Mauna Loa. A new reaction from the U.S. men's soccer captain after the team's controversial tweet that changed the Iranian flag. Why Iran says the U.S. should be booted out of the World Cup altogether. Plus, a teen now in protective custody after police killed a man who catfished her, traveled across the country, and then allegedly killed her mom and grandparents. What we're hearing today about the shootout. And Balenciaga in damage control right now after a controversial ad showing teddy bears in what looks to be bondage gear. Why the new campaign could cost him Kim Kardashian. We've got that story later on in the show. Hey, I'm Hallie, and if you're not making your way back home from visiting family this Thanksgiving yet, get ready, because there is a massive cross-country storm rolling in less than 24 hours now that could mean a travel nightmare for millions of people. So check it out. Let me do my best Bill Cairns impression, because the storm is basically in two parts, right? To the north, you could see a bunch of snow, 6 inches of snow, wind at like 55 miles an hour. That could slam the Pacific Northwest and the Midwest. To the south, then, it's the tornado issue. 12 million people at risk there. You see it in red, okay? This means it's going to be worse around the Greenville, Memphis area. Little Rock, a little less so, but still a risk there. And as it gets darker, and it gets darker earlier in the day because of daylight saving time, it means tornadoes will get even deadlier. If you're already heading home, there's a good chance you're not hitting too much trouble. Two big reasons why. First, most people, 90% of people, traveled this year by car. So yeah, some traffic, but like not as far to go. What about those who traveled by air? The airlines are giving themselves a pat on the back because even though Sunday hit pre-pandemic levels of air travel, they say things went kind of smoothly. You see it here. The numbers show it, right? About 70 cancellations today, but get ready to wait. More than 2,800 delays in the U.S. today after something like 6,000 on Sunday. Sam Brock is at Miami International Airport. And Sam, the airlines are not the only ones taking a victory lap. Pete Buttigieg, the transportation secretary, was given a lot of applause to aviation workers for preventing major delays. This couldn't be more different from what we saw during the summer travel holidays, right? The big question that has now been answered was, can airlines pass the Thanksgiving test after failing, like the Memorial Labor Day test? It sounds like they did. So what was the trick? What did it? Why was it so much better?
Well, you're right to draw the comparison, Hallie. There is no question. It was night and day between Memorial Day and what we've seen so far with Thanksgiving, even with all of these air delays. But I will say this, Pete Buttigieg, he did fine 6 airlines $7.5 million. These are multi-billion-dollar corporations. Hard to believe that would be the catalyst for change. Now, it should be noted the Department of Transportation also required $600 million of refunds to be returned to passengers. Maybe that was more momentous. But also you have a situation where airlines are just realizing that their business practices were not sustainable. They had all of these flights they were scheduling, but they didn't have the staffing in order to actually get those planes from point A to point B. So you saw some restructuring in terms of how they're handling things, rolling back some of the flights, beefing up staffing, more pilots. The result so far, even with all of these weather issues, has been far better performance, Hallie.
And I'll tell you, it's awesome for people who decided to travel today instead of yesterday, right? People who avoided the big Sunday rush. You talked to a couple of folks who were like feeling really good about the fact that they're not caught up in a mess over Thanksgiving travel.
One day makes such a major difference, and that is exactly what I heard on the ground level from families, from college students, from high school students. You know, certainly there's less hassle involved, Hallie. That appealed to them. But it's also a lot cheaper to fly on the Monday after Thanksgiving weekend than to fly on that Sunday. Here's a couple of young women that I spoke with, and here's what they told me.
Tickets yesterday were just crazy. Like, it was so much more expensive to travel yesterday. The airport packed, a lot of delays. Today was like much more calm.
We're happy we're traveling Monday.
Now, Hallie, they were trying to get to Boston, and there's a handful of airports, be it in Boston, LaGuardia, Newark, DCA, that disproportionately bore the brunt of these delays. You're talking about, in some cases, as much as 50% of the flights or more being delayed on Sunday. Those situations are vastly improved since then. And, Hallie, I got to say, you crushed that weather map. If you were not so good at politics, I would say you have a future in meteorology, but unfortunately, you're a victim of your so many abilities.
Thank you, Sam Brock. I deeply, deeply appreciate you. Thank you. Speaking of, let me go to Bill. I'm gunning for your job. Karen's now at the weather map. So, Bill,
do you still need me? I mean,
You are the master, okay? So I will turn it over to you to talk through this storm. It is not great, right? Tomorrow it's going to be the worst. Snow up in the north, tornadoes down south. Walk us through it, as you can so capably do in many ways.
Yeah, and of course, tornadoes is the highlight. I mean, tornadoes is the thing that we're most concerned about. So we'll just start right on that. And anytime you have a weather map that looks like it has a bullseye on it, that's not where you want to be. And we're talking about our friends in northern Louisiana, eastern half of Arkansas, the good, western half of Tennessee, most of Mississippi, and a little section here of Alabama. The red here is where we have a moderate risk of severe weather. If you follow this regularly, you know that the highest risk category is a high risk. That's only one above moderate. That only happens like 2, maybe 3 times a year, typically in the spring. So this is looking like a very significant outbreak possible tomorrow, maybe even what we call long-track tornadoes. Those are tornadoes that are on the ground for a long period of time. They could be strong. And if the sun sets so early now that they're going to be at night, so the storm chasers aren't going to be able to tell you exactly where they're located as they can during the daylight hours. So that makes them a little more dangerous, a little less lead time to get your family to protection. So here's the pause at 5 p.m. tomorrow. All the bright red dots show you where the potential is for those storms. We're worried about the supercell thunderstorms, and again, scattered from Louisiana to Mississippi up to Tennessee. And then eventually, there will be some snow on this, Hallie, but we can deal with this. Minneapolis, right around 2 to 4 inches tomorrow afternoon.
So talk to me more about the tornadoes, because what was interesting, and our team was talking about this as we were putting together this segment and this discussion, we don't always see tornadoes hit this late in the year, right? We've seen it before. I think back to last December, there was just a terrible tornado down south, but it's kind of unusual this time of year, right?
Every fall, we usually get 1 or 2 severe weather outbreaks, but this one's pretty late. So I looked up a map to show where the tornadoes occur per state, average in the month of November. So Texas averages 7 tornadoes every November, Arkansas 4, Louisiana 5, Mississippi 5, Alabama 6. That's the highest totals. And guess where tomorrow's outbreak is going to be? In these exact same areas, especially Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Tennessee. So it's actually occurring in a location you think. And Hallie, I know you follow all the climate change stuff. With tornadoes, there's not a big connection between a warmer planet and getting more tornadoes. And actually, this year is the red line. We're about 200 tornadoes below average. So there's no correlation with an increased number of tornadoes, at least that we found yet.
Bill Cairns, thank you so much, friend. Appreciate it. Glad to see you. I'm sure we'll talk again tomorrow. If you are not dealing with a travel mess, maybe you are looking at what's going down online, because today, Cyber Monday, is expected to break records yet again, with online sales expected to grow something like 5% after dropping last year. And it's kind of interesting because think about this moment in time. There's really intense inflation, and yet a whole lot of us are going online and buying a whole lot of stuff for a whole lot of dollars. More than $11 billion worth expected to be spent today. And underneath that is this potential shift in how we shop, because we now know that shoppers spent more than $9 billion online on Black Friday. So that was a couple days ago. That is also a new record. Brian Chung is at an Amazon warehouse, the beating heart of Cyber Monday in Robbinsville, New Jersey. Talk to the tea leaves here for us, because it's not just that we are shopping a lot, even in this global macroeconomic climate. It's how we are shopping, and those changes may last for a while.
Yeah, for sure. And Hallie, one big way that shoppers are changing their behaviors and the fact that the doorbuster is not really a thing anymore. People don't really necessarily go to the physical store, and that's underscored by Placer.ai data that we got earlier today, which shows indoor mall traffic down 2.3% over the year, and outlet malls not any better, down 3.9%. And I spoke with a mother of 2 in Utah who said it's just not worth all of the chaos of trying to go to the store. She's juggling 2 kids. That's a lot in person. You could just do everything from your couch. So that's one way. A second way is buy now, pay later. We saw an increase in the amount of people turning to this unconventional way of financing these purchases, up 78% in this week compared to last week. A lot of people trying to use installments to pay for things in this high inflationary environment, Hallie.
You say unconventional, Brian, but isn't that just another way of saying layaway, right, which has been around for many, many years?
It's essentially right. But it's now you just hit that button, so it's a lot easier than it was than having to go to the section at the Walmart and actually sign up for layaway.
And then go back and pay your bill at that same Walmart or that same department store like every month.
In person.
Inflation, right? Because that is part of a factor in this too, with people seeming like they're doing a lot of window shopping, but not necessarily, going for the deals a ton. Tell me how that's playing into some of this.
Yeah, well, when it comes to the amount of spend, you mentioned some of those numbers. Again, $11 billion expected on Cyber Monday. That would be a record. But remember, everything is expensive now. Prices are 7.7% higher now than they were this time last year. So that might cover fewer gifts this season. And we actually saw a Deloitte study leading into Black Friday suggesting that consumer spend was going to be about the same. Each household about $1,400 for gift giving this season. But that's going to cover 16, that covered 16 gifts last year. That might only cover 9 gifts this year.
So
you're going to have to prioritize who might be getting something. Again, you know, maybe the extended uncle might not get something this year. You're going to have to pick and choose.
Love you, Uncle Bill, but you are getting a lovely holiday card this year instead. Brian Chung, you'll get a holiday card too, Brian. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Good to see you there at that Amazon warehouse. Here in Washington now, some new reaction we're just getting late today from the White House on those extraordinary and extraordinarily rare protests happening all over China because of that country's very strict zero COVID policy. Listen to what John Kirby from the National Security Council
People should be allowed the right to assemble and to peacefully protest policies or laws or dictates that they take issue with.
Check out what's happening right now in Beijing then, right? A pretty heavy police presence ready to step in case there are any more protests. You have dozens of police cars and buses full of officers now parked along an intersection of a suburban district. It's after we saw pretty widespread public unrest. In other words, demonstrations. I mean, look at this video, right? We don't see this. We don't see crowds of people pushing up against each other, shouting, going up against the Chinese leader, Xi Jinping. But folks are at a breaking point. You can see it. This is what it looks like here. All the lockdowns, all the mass testing because of COVID across China that have lasted now for years. Frustration and anger boiling over when an apartment fire ended up killing 10 people in a high-rise apartment. There are questions now about whether the victims could have made it out alive if the lockdown measures were not so intense. What you're seeing on your screen is having an impact all around the world, with the protests weighing down the markets today when the closing bell rang. I want to bring in Raf Sanchez, who's joining us now. And Raf, this deadly fire seems to be what set all these protests off. But even early on in some of these lockdowns, there had been reports of older and more vulnerable people dying because they didn't have access to medical care in a timely fashion. It feels like this has built and built and built for months and months and years now. And as we said, people have hit a breaking point there.
It's built and built and built over the 3 years of the pandemic. And Hallie, there has been just this drip of stories like that. I want to give you just one example. 3 weeks ago, early November, northwestern China, a father finds his 3-year-old son in their house starting to show symptoms of gas poisoning. There's a hospital just 2 miles away. He takes his son. He's heading to the hospital, but he is unable to leave the family compounds because they don't have an up-to-date PCR test. And ultimately, his 3-year-old son dies in his arms, unable to get that medical care that he needs. The father posts about it. His post, as you can imagine, goes completely viral on social media. One of the most popular responses to his post says 3 years of the pandemic was his entire life, about the little boy. And Hallie, you can understand if you have been living through what feels like a never-ending lockdown and you have been reading about stories like this, you can understand why people are at breaking point, right?
But so what happens next, right? Because it feels like the question now is Xi Jinping, what does he do? How hard does the Chinese government crack down on this kind of dissent, which we don't really often see in China ever?
Yeah, so all eyes on President Xi Jinping now. He has not faced anything like this in his 10 years in power. Hallie, we've talked about this before. He just got sworn into his unprecedented 3rd term as China's leader. This is supposed to be a high point for him. And now he is facing these very widespread, very daring protests. And he basically has carrots and sticks available to him. He can loosen some of these COVID restrictions, try to give in to some of the demands of these protesters. But the thing that's so tricky for him is he has really staked his own prestige and the prestige of the Chinese Communist Party on this zero COVID policy, right? They point to the United States, to their own people, and they say, look, COVID has ripped through America. They have so many dead people, whereas we in China have been safe. But the reality is they don't really have an exit strategy because vaccination rates in China are not that high. So at some point, if and when they do ease these restrictions, it is likely that COVID rates are going to go up, deaths are going to go up, hospitalizations are going to go up. So that leaves him the sticks. And Xi Jinping has made very clear in his 10 years in power, he is not a man who's afraid to use those sticks. We've seen him use them on the streets of Hong Kong, where he crushed dissent there. We've seen him use them in the west of China with the Uyghurs, where millions of people are interned. So all eyes now at the White House, inside China, across the world, looking to see how President Xi responds to this. Hallie.
What is his off-ramp here? Yeah, Raf Sanchez, thank you very much for that breakdown. Appreciate it. Back here at home, let's take it to Houston, where nobody in the entire city of Houston could just take a sip out of their faucet, can brush their teeth in their sink without having to boil their water first. The entire city is under this advisory because of a power outage Sunday morning at a city water plant. It meant the whole system's water pressure dropped. There were concerns about possible contamination, and now you have this boil water advisory in effect today. Schools even had to be closed because of this whole thing. So kids are not in class at all. They might stay closed tomorrow and maybe beyond, depending on how long this whole outage lasts, how long this water issue lasts. The mayor said in a statement overnight that the city is submitting a plan to the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality to try to get the boil notice lifted. That's like, bureaucratic stuff that has to happen. But until then, you've got these people stuck, more than 2 million of them. NBC News correspondent Morgan Chesky is joining us now. Morgan, the question everybody has, and I know you don't have a crystal ball, is this is a huge pain, right, for a ton of people. Access to water is obviously incredibly important to humanity. I can't believe those words are coming out of my mouth because they're so obvious. How long is this going to last?
Yeah, Hallie, good afternoon. And the question is a good one. Hopefully, this will be over sooner than later, at least according to the mayor of Houston, Sylvester Turner, who tells me that after submitting those water samples to the TCEQ, who are then testing them for contaminants, they hope to have the final results within about 18 hours' time, if not sooner. Those samples gathered early this morning, that would put the timeline on a final answer somewhere overnight, although the mayor told me that the results could come back even sooner. That said, obviously, this came as a surprise to a lot of folks yesterday whenever this boil water notice was issued for millions across the city of Houston. And it all happened because of that temporary outage. And important to note here, Hallie, in that when the water levels dipped, it knocked about 16 sensors, or it triggered 16 sensors that noted this lowered water pressure. 14 of those 16 had the pressure back to normal within about 2 minutes. Then the other 2 had pressure back to normal within about 30 minutes. So compared to past events, such as that big Texas freeze that we had, where water pressure was gone for days on end, this was just a fraction of that. That said, as the mayor mentioned, out of an abundance of caution is why they issued this, but they hope to have it put behind them at some point later today or overnight. Hallie?
What about what the grocery stores are doing in the city? Because you'd think, okay, fine, people that can afford it can go out and buy a whole bunch of bottled water, but only so much at a time?
Right. Well, we have heard reports. I know that Kroger is a grocery store here in Houston. They have put a limit of, I believe, 2 cases of water per person. However, the good news is that here within the hour, we do know that a water distribution site is one of several opening up around Houston to hopefully get people through the evening before they can give the all clear. We did hear from the mayor as far as what he had to say about this hopeful news that they can make the announcement that water is safe to get. Here's what he had to say about that process. Take a listen.
What we know at this point is that the 2 transformers malfunction. Okay, one was the backup to the first. It happened. I've ordered a diagnostic review of our entire system.
At this point in time, is there any evidence of contaminants?
There is no evidence that any contaminants got into the system.
So no evidence of any contaminants in Houston's water supply as of right now. According to the mayor, they should have everything, should have the green light for the customers, millions of them waiting at some point overnight or early tomorrow morning, Hallie. But as you mentioned, an absolute inconvenience for millions of customers here following a busy holiday weekend. Hallie?
Just shows what a domino effect something like that can have, how interconnected all of our systems are. Morgan Chesky, live for us in Houston. Thank you very much. Taken out of Hawaii, where the world's biggest active volcano is erupting as we speak for the first time in something like 4 decades. Check out your screen, however you're streaming this. This is a thermal image of Mauna Loa. It erupted at like 4:30 Eastern time. That was 11:30 local time out in Hawaii. You can see the lava flow there with the USGS, the Geological Survey of this country, saying that There's no threat to people right now, okay, who live at the bottom of this volcano. Officials have been warning about the possibility that this could happen for weeks after they saw a lot of activity at the volcano summit. NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson joins us now with the latest. Can I just tell you, Steve, like my first ever story for NBC News was at a lava flow, a different, much smaller lava flow. And it is very slow moving, obviously. This isn't like an action movie where like the lava's coming and you got to run and get out of the way and it's going to eat up homes. But it can be scary for people, some of whom have left voluntarily, even though there's no mandatory evacuation in place, right?
Yeah, and I was there a few years after you for Kilauea, which was very destructive.
Right.
700 homes destroyed or so. This is a little bit different, and I think you can phrase it like this. Is the largest active volcano erupting a threat to the island's population? Of course it is. Volcanic activity, it's volatile, it's powerful, it's the reason why there's a Hawaii in the first place. But if the question is it immediately dangerous? The answer right now is no. Scientists say the flow is really contained to the caldera, and I know you know this stuff, which means the volcano's crater. Essentially,
thank you, Professor
that
Patterson.
means
Love
you got it. So that means it's a summit eruption. It's what they call a summit eruption. It will only impact really the top of Pele's hair, if you know the reference to Hawaiian gods, which for the most part means that these downhill communities, population centers, life goes on. School stays open. No one's being evacuated. Flights are still in the air, although many have been impacted. However, that doesn't mean that officials aren't stressing vigilance, that they aren't warning that there could easily be a change. Shelters are open. Residents know that they should be packed up and ready to leave at a moment's notice. And even if this never becomes cataclysmic, you know, if you've got a respiratory issue, you have to stay inside at this point because there's literally ash in the air in some places there on the Big Island. So certainly a high state of readiness, you could say right now.
Yeah, I was going to ask about issues like air quality, all the sort of unseen or maybe quote unquote smaller stuff that's not hot lava that still creates problems for people who live on the Big Island.
Yeah, huge. You know, those particulates get in the air and they can affect you, impact you like nothing else. And also, like, lava's like a wild animal. You can predict its path, but you can't totally tell where it's going. So there's also the chance that if a lava flow finds what's called the right rift zone or series of cracks in the volcano, it could easily shift and put population centers in danger. There's also the possibility of another eruption. There's a lot of volcanic vents because that volcano in particular is so huge, which means if there is another eruption in the right place, it could go bad. That's why they're telling people stay vigilant, don't worry right now, but just, you know, make sure you're ready to go in case this thing goes bad. Hallie?
No kidding. Steve Patterson, thanks for keeping an eye on. I appreciate it.
You got it.
In California, Disney CEO Bob Iger covering a lot of bases today in his first town hall since coming back to the company, one of the world's biggest. He says, yes, the hiring freeze that Disney has is here to stay. He's going to look at how much the company is going to be spending. He told employees Disney is not going to be trying to acquire any new companies, buy any new companies anytime soon. And he doesn't plan to put Disney up for sale either. He's also focusing on making Disney's streaming business profitable. As you well know, if you're watching this, streaming is a big deal. Right? Iger also had some jokes. He told staffers that his wife told him he should go back to running Disney so that he wouldn't try running for president instead. Julia Borson has been covering this. She joins us live now. So setting aside that tongue-in-cheek moment about Bob Iger's potential political future, talk to us about what's happening at Disney, because under Bob Chapek, there was a lot of, I think, morale questions, right? You look at what happened with Disney's response in Florida to that state's so-called Don't Say Gay legislation. Some employees were very upset with the way that Chapek and Disney responded to that. Talk to me about morale, what its staffers heard in this meeting, and whether it reassured them that the company's on the right track.
Bob Iger is very much focused on building morale, reassuring his employees that he prioritizes them, he's taking their concerns seriously, and he's very much focused on growing this company and making it successful for the future. Now, I just have to say, in terms of the Don't Say Gay bill, the so-called Don't Say Gay bill, he wanted to reassure the LGBTQ plus employees who were so frustrated by the way the company handled that earlier this year, saying that they care deeply about those employees, and that's a given. But he really talked about the importance of storytelling to drive culture, saying that over the past 100 years, Disney's stories have had a meaningful, positive impact of the world. And one of those reasons is because the core values include inclusion, acceptance, and tolerance, saying we can't leave that. So really looking to get to the heart of the power of storytelling to drive acceptance.
What about storytelling in the sort of external public-facing way? Like, in other words, what is Iger's takeover of Disney, and did he share anything in this meeting today that could impact viewers, people who stream Disney Plus or who are thinking about streaming Disney Plus, which is a big focus of Iger's moving forward?
I think he's trying to figure out how to make streaming profitable. You announced this at the very top, and this is key, but this idea they're not going to be chasing subscriber growth at any cost, just throwing money at marketing and content. They're going to be thinking strategically which content should maybe go to a movie theater first for a month or two before that content moves over to the streaming platform. What content is best made for streaming? Should we be trying to do general entertainment content or just focus more on the big franchises and brands? So I think he's going to be really thinking strategically about this, but really above all, putting creativity at the center, understanding that content and creativity is the engine that really has to drive Disney.
Julia Boorstin, thank you so much. Good to see you. Appreciate it. Coming up here on the show, the midterms, remember them? They are not over yet, not in Georgia, where we are seeing a ton of early voter turnout today. We'll talk about that and who's got the money advantage with just about a week to go from that key Senate runoff. As we talk about the Senate, it is busy, by the way. How busy? Like 15 working days left in the year busy. What they're trying to get done and what's on the line when we get back. Merriam-Webster's editor-at-large says its word of 2022 is kind of weird because it's not like there was one big thing that happened that made people look it up. It's just apparently on a lot of people's minds a lot of the time. We'll talk more about it in our 5 things in a second. But first, early voter turnout in Georgia. Boy, is it spiking in that Senate runoff race, because as of today, 8 days before that election, every single county across the state has polls open. People can get out and vote, and they are sure doing so. It's something like 180,000 people casting ballots over the weekend and through the mail. And even though Senate control is not on the line, you're still seeing a lot of money in the race. Democratic incumbent Senator Raphael Warnock has $29 million in the bank. His Republican opponent, Herschel Walker, working with just about half that, $10 million. And after a holiday break, the Senate is back in session today. We'll talk more about what the Senate is doing, with Democrats sprinting to the finish of this term while still under control of both chambers of Congress. Right now, I want you to look live at what's happening. This is the Senate floor as we speak. Kind of a flurry of activity, as active as the Senate floor gets, because they're about to start a key procedural vote on a narrow but important bill that would protect same-sex marriage. And that's not the only thing they're doing. Check out the many things on their to-do list. They've got to avoid a government shutdown at some point soon. They want to get the same-sex marriage thing done. They got to, basically, as they avoid a government shutdown, they have to fund the Pentagon, make sure that the Pentagon has enough money to function for the next little bit. They hope to, Democrats do, reform the electoral count process to avoid another January 6th from happening. Speaking of January 6th, that committee has to wrap up its work and submit its final report before House Republicans take over that chamber and disband it. And the kicker, 15 working days to get it all done. Ryan Nobles, our Capitol Hill correspondent. How do you like those numbers, man? They say there's nothing like a deadline to focus senators and Congress members, and they definitely have a big deadline coming up. That's the holiday break.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And usually it is a deadline that compels these senators to get something done. And the first thing they'd like to clear from the deck is this bill called the Respect for Marriage Act, which would allow protections for same-sex marriages across the country. Now, it is not a full codification of the recent Supreme Court decision that essentially made same-sex marriage a constitutional right. But what it does do is it establishes federal protections for same-sex and interracial marriages. It forces states to recognize marriages that are performed in other states. And it does repeal the Defense of Marriage Act, but it doesn't force states, for instance, to issue same-sex marriage licenses, something that the Obergefell decision did do. Now, this, of course, is born out of the Dobbs decision from the Supreme Court, the concern that even if there is Supreme Court precedent, that just a simple flipping of the vote by the Supreme Court could change all of that. Now, Hallie, I should say that, even though there were 12 Republican votes to move this one procedural step, there are a number of other procedural steps to get it over the finish line. That's right. And with time, there's always the possibility that something could derail this process. There are a number of Republicans, Mike Lee principally among them, demanding more amendments to this piece of legislation before it gets to that final vote. So tonight will give us, just another idea of just how serious the chances are of this getting passed. Still believe it'll happen, but until it's a done deal, anything is possible.
As we look at the rest of that long to-do list, Ryan, real quick here, these are the last few weeks that Democrats will have control of both chambers of Congress, right? They will no longer have that come January. Are Republicans thinking about throwing any roadblocks up? Like, what's up with that? Or do Democrats think that as long as they can kind of stick together, they can get through this and move on?
Well, Democrats believe that they can get most of this done, but to your point, to get anything done in the Senate, it requires 10 Republican votes. And even though Democrats are counting on a number of Republicans that will no longer be here when the calendar turns because they've either retired or they didn't win their respective races, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to hold firm. And you could see someone like Mitch McConnell, who will still be the minority leader in the next Congress, saying to some of these Republicans, like Roy Blunt, for instance, that he has a close relationship with, you know what, let's not pass a spending bill that gets us all the way through this fiscal year, because as we'd like to have some control over that when Republicans take the House. So there is that possibility of a monkey wrench being thrown into this in some respect. They believe most of this is going to get done. But to your point, Hallie, 15 days to get it done. Yeah. This is, of course, Congress, where nothing is easy. So nothing is guaranteed here over the next couple of weeks.
Ryan Noble's live for us on the Hill. Thanks. Good to see you. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, the white attacker who killed 10 black shoppers and workers at a grocery store in Buffalo, New York last year, pled guilty to murder and hate crime charges. It means he will spend the rest of his life in prison. An attorney for the victims' families says the guilty plea avoids a long trial that would have been really hard for the survivors. The shooter previously pled not guilty to federal hate crime charges that could be punishable by the death penalty. Number 2, rescuers looking for survivors after a deadly landslide on the Italian island of Ischia, this resort island. This landslide killed at least 8 people, including some kids. Several other folks are still missing. There was a ton of rainfall over the weekend. That's what triggered this landslide. Number 3, a self-described natural baby product company is recalling more than 10,000 stainless steel water bottles and cups for toddlers. You see them on screen here. Why? The Consumer Protection and Safety Board says there's a lead poisoning risk. The recall notice says the bottom part of 3 of the Green Sprouts products, that's the brand, can break off and expose kids to a kind of metal that contains lead. So far, no injuries have been reported. The company's asking people who bought the bottles to go to a form on its website, get a refund. All the info's online if you need it. Number 4, the word of the year, according to Merriam-Webster, gaslighting, which the dictionary defines broadly as the act of grossly misleading someone, especially for one's own advantage. Okay, it's the word of the year. Why? Searches were up more than 1,700% from last year. And it's not like there was one specific thing that led people to look it up. In an interview at the AP, the editor-at-large for Merriam-Webster said the word was searched every single day this year. Just searched a ton. Number 5, it's Christmas time, just about. Holiday time at the White House, which unveiled its holiday decor and theme today. The theme? We the people. 77 Christmas trees, 80,000 lights, even a replica of the White House made out of gingerbread. Little figurines there, too. I'd love to see it. When we come back, some controversial social media posts have Iran saying the U.S. should not be allowed to play in the World Cup at all. And today we heard from the State Department about the whole thing. We'll talk about what's going down in Qatar ahead of the big game tomorrow, next. It is win or go home for Team USA tomorrow in the World Cup if the American men's soccer team wants to get out of the group stage. If they do, they've got to beat Iran. And you know the U.S. still hasn't found a way to win in Qatar. Both of its games were ties. Iran has a win and a loss. But if the Iranians had their way, the U.S. wouldn't get to play them at all. Why not? Look at this, because of this picture on the left that you see posted on Team USA's official Twitter. Do you see the Iranian flag? We circled it in red. It is missing that symbol. The middle symbol on the inside of the Islamic Republic. You can see it on the right side of your screen. The State Department swearing they didn't coordinate with the team to do this, but the Iranian state media is putting the pressure on players. Grant Wall is in Doha. He is the founder of GrantWall.com, covers soccer, covers all things World Cup for us here. So what was interesting about this was the intent of what this sort of move was, and then the questions that U.S. players, Adams, got today. Walk us through this and how it's landing as of, Monday evening here.
Well, I think this was a well-meaning gesture by the U.S. Soccer Federation to show support, as they put it, for women protesting for women's rights in Iran, which has been happening now for a couple of months. And I just don't totally understand why they chose to do it this way, by taking away the Islamic Republic symbol from the Iranian flag, because that could be taken in different ways. It could be seen even as like anti-Islamic potentially. And so changing other teams' flags, probably not the best idea. And in the end, on Sunday night, U.S. Soccer took down those posts as the Iranians started to protest. And Greg Berhalter, the U.S. coach, actually issued an apology today in a truly surreal press conference. I've never seen anything like it in my career, in which Iranian state-affiliated media peppered the coach and Tyler Adams, the U.S. captain, with political questions that I thought they handled with a lot of maturity and humility and humanity.
Was it so surprising to you, Grant? You say you haven't seen something like that in your long career covering soccer. Was it so unusual because it was this nexus of politics and sports that we don't often see on the soccer field?
I think so. You know, I covered the USA-Iran game at the World Cup in 1998, a long time ago, that was won by Iran. And there was obviously the history politically between the two countries, but that game came at a time when there was a bit of a thaw in relations, and the two teams actually took a pregame picture together before that game. That will not be happening here. I just can't see that happening because of all that's happening with the Iranian state. But then it's really complicated because you had the Iranian players refuse to sing the national anthem for game one here as a show of support for women in Iran. And then the regime cracked down, forced them to sing the anthem for game two. And you had Iranian fans crying in the stands when they saw that happen.
Team Iran wants the U.S. kicked out of the tournament altogether. That seems very unlikely to happen. What is the FIFA move here? What can we expect to see, too, before the game tomorrow when these two countries go up against each other? What's your sense?
I'm not expecting FIFA to do anything. They're a flaky organization. You never can be totally sure, but I just cannot see them doing something here to penalize the U.S. team or do something that would interfere with this game taking place.
Grant Wall, good to see you. Thank you. I'm sure we'll talk again tomorrow after that big game. Appreciate it. We are getting never-before-seen look, a never-before-seen sense of what it's like inside Russia now, with more and more opposition growing against President Vladimir Putin, coming from a group of students in Moscow. A group of students, some of them who sat down with our own Keir Simmons, were not showing their faces so that they can actually speak freely against their own government. They'd be in real big trouble if we did show who they are. Keir Simmons is joining us now. Keir, you know, what is so interesting here, we talked earlier in the show about the dissent against Xi Jinping, an extraordinary image of dissent in China. Yeah. This image looks different in Russia, right? But the sensibility is still the same. A people, some of them, up against a leader with a firm grip, doing something that people in the country think is wrong. It's generational in this instance.
Yeah, I think the frustration is similar. I think the divisions are similar. In China, there is certainly a generational gap, and that is certainly true in Russia. And when you hear these young people, these students speak, and they wanted to hide their faces so that they could speak out, but they also wanted people to know that they held these views because perhaps it's just not being seen or heard around the world from Russia. When you hear them speak, there is that just deep frustration. Listen, Hallie, I asked them, there was 5 of them. I said, listen, put up your hand if you think anytime soon there's going to be a wave of demonstrations that unseats the current Russian leader, Vladimir Putin. No one put their hand up. Yeah. No hands. And that, I think, is part of what fuels what they had to say to me. Take a listen.
You feel that you can't do anything to help them, just want to go to the Kremlin and say, stop it, please. I think the majority of my generation wants this to end, and we want to live in peace.
Incredibly brave of them to speak out, Hallie.
It's having an effect on families. You talked about the generational divide, and that is really the reality here, I think, for some of these families, because as you well know, Keir, you know, these students are telling you one thing. There are plenty of people in Russia who support Vladimir Putin and his war in Ukraine. Yeah,
there are divisions. And you know, what's fascinating, and as I heard these students talk about this, I thought about how many of us would actually relate to this. they spoke about the divisions within their families, about their parents disagreeing with them, about watching state TV and not accepting what they're seeing on state TV, but then older generations, others in their families completely accepting what they're seeing. And it's incredible, in a sense, to hear Russians talk like that when we all can recognize that same kind of polarization in our own communities, our own societies. Of course, it is different. One thing I will say, Hallie, and I've been, coming in and out of Russia all this year, is things have changed on Russian state television even. You had this wave of unequivocal support at the beginning when the invasion happened when I was there in Russia. It's not like that now. There's open criticism, particularly of the way the invasion was carried out and the decisions that are being made now. Not always direct criticism of President Putin, but even questioning of the idea of whether this conflict in Ukraine should be happening at all. And that is stunning, and it's a change.
Likely, Kira, I'm sure, triggered by the intense defense that the Ukrainians have put up, fighting for their own country, to their own territory. Kira Simmons, it's great to see you. Thank you. We're looking forward to seeing more of Kira's reporting tonight on NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt. That's at 6:30 Eastern, however you watch your local NBC station. Coming up, California police say a law enforcement worker is dead after allegedly killing 3 people related to a teenager he catfished online. What we know about the suspect in this convoluted story coming up in just a second. Plus, a high-stakes rescue from high-voltage power lines, how law enforcement and first responders were able to get people inside this plane out in the local. To a convoluted story now out of California, with police in Riverside releasing the pictures of 3 people killed after a man allegedly set fire to their house after apparently catfishing a teenage girl. That girl is now in protective custody. But the victims, her family, her grandparents Mark and Sherry Wynick on the left, her mom, Brooke, on the right. Their official cause of death is still being figured out, but police say the fire was set on purpose. We also know the alleged suspect is now dead. You see him here, Austin Lee Edwards. He's a law enforcement worker from Virginia. Police killed him after he opened fire with authority against other officers who came in from the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. Gabe Gutierrez is following the story. And Gabe, we're just hearing from police now with details about this alleged suspect in this very bizarre and disturbing story here. Tell us more about what we're now learning about this catfishing scheme turned, alleged murder here.
I got to tell you, you said it, Hallie. This is a wild story. Austin Lee Edwards, 28 years old. He had worked as a state trooper in Virginia. He had just resigned just last month, the end of last month, and then he was hired by by a sheriff's department. He was actually going through orientation to be in the patrol division there. So he was actively in law enforcement. But police say that he drove more than 2,000 miles to California and met up with his teenager. And, as you just laid out, police say that he burnt down their home, killed the girl's mother and grandparents, and then took the girl and in a shootout was killed after he started firing at police. Now, the sheriff in Virginia just releasing a statement saying that, quote, "It is shocking and sad to the entire law enforcement community that such an evil and wicked person could infiltrate law enforcement while concealing his true identity as a computer predator and murderer." Some very strong words. So as I mentioned, he worked there for the Washington County, Virginia Sheriff's Office, previously worked as a state trooper. He completed the state's police academy in January of this year, and no past employers disclosed any troubles in the hiring process. That's according to the Sheriff's Department, Hallie.
We mentioned that teenage girl, the teenager in this situation is in protective custody, and police say they're trying to be really cautious with her, knowing that, knowing her age, how sensitive obviously this all is, but there's still a lot of questions they want to ask, right?
Yes, Hallie, this is an extremely difficult case and complex case, and as you can imagine, dealing with just such a young girl who has been through so much. So not only having to interview her, they're also going forensically through so many digital communications that may have happened between this young girl and the suspect. And I want to play for you some of what authorities are now saying. Take a listen.
We want to know, how long did this relationship last? When did it start? anyone, their intentions, what she knew, what she didn't know. We're still trying to figure out, was she coerced or forced to leave with him? We don't know all of those yet.
So still a lot of unanswered questions at this point, Hallie, but what police are saying is that, unfortunately, this should be a warning to all parents about the dangers of catfishing and basically to pay attention to what your children are doing online, Hallie.
Gabe Gutierrez, thank you so much. NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day. And because you couldn't possibly read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Western Bureau, classes started again today at the University of Idaho, more than 2 weeks after 4 students were killed near campus. Still no suspect, no arrests in their deaths. You've got the school letting students who are concerned for their safety finish the semester remotely. Investigators there say they've processed more than 1,000 tips, with police saying there doesn't appear to be any evidence of a connection to other stabbings in the area. Out of our Southeast Bureau, police escorted football star Odell Beckham Jr. off a flight in Florida yesterday. Officials say he wasn't responsive to the request to buckle up. Crew members thought he seemed to be coming in and out of consciousness. Beckham's attorney said he fell asleep, was woken up, and was told he'd have to get off the plane because he didn't have a seatbelt on, and that the whole incident was, in his words, completely unnecessary. Beckham is a free agent. He's supposed to start visiting teams he could sign with this week. From our Northeast Bureau, 2 people rescued from a small plane in Maryland, stuck in a high-voltage transmission tower. Look at this, like 100 feet in the air. This isn't too far from where I am here in D.C. The 2 passengers were stuck for something like 6 hours. It was tough to get them out of there because it wasn't clear right away if the power lines, obviously crisscrossing this whole crash, could be dangerous, could spark, even though they weren't activated. Fire officials say the people inside have serious but not life-threatening injuries. The NTSB, the FAA, all investigating the cause of this whole thing. Still to come, Kim Kardashian says a controversial Balenciaga campaign has left her shaken. How the fashion house is reacting to all the backlash and what they plan to do next. Stay with us. The fashion house Balenciaga today trying to clear the air about the controversies over some of its recent ad campaigns, with the brand saying it strongly condemns child abuse and that it was never their intent to include that in their narrative. You might be thinking, why in the world would a company need to explicitly say that? Well, have you seen Balenciaga's most recent holiday campaign? Had little kids posing with teddy bears and what some said looked like bondage gear. And there was a campaign for next spring, too, where you could see a printout of the Supreme Court's 2008 decision on child pornography laws in the background. Balenciaga is known for being kind of edgy, but this crossed the line for a whole bunch of people, including Kim Kardashian, apparently. She's an ambassador for the brand, and she now says she is reevaluating her relationship with Balenciaga. She does appreciate their apology. She says she waited to speak out when this whole thing first erupted, not because, I'm quoting her here, not because I haven't been disgusted, she says, and outraged by the recent Balenciaga campaigns, but because she wanted to talk to their team to see how in the world this could have happened in the first place. Now, Ala Charles is joining us now. And now, Balenciaga says it's taking action now on what happened with these 2 campaigns. Talk about what it's going to do, because in one instance, there's the lawsuit involved. In the other, it's this apology, right?
Right. Hallie, right now, the luxury fashion brand says it's under both internal and external investigations. While that happens, it says it's revising its workflow and taking a look at its approval process to make sure this doesn't happen again. Balenciaga also says it's in talks with child protection organizations. Today's statement says the 2 separate ad campaigns in question reflect a series of grievous errors for which Balenciaga takes responsibility. Balenciaga says its holiday campaign featuring the teddy bear bags with harnesses was not intended to have that, and it says it shouldn't have featured children at all. It goes on to say the responsibility there lies with Balenciaga alone. But in that spring 2023 campaign featuring the child porn case paperwork, Balenciaga distances itself from those decisions, saying the third party that provided the props used the Supreme Court document without Balenciaga's approval. They say they were told all the documents used in that shoot would be fake. Hallie?
So you've got the lawsuit on the one hand, you've got the apology on the other. What is the long-term damage here potentially? Because there had been, questions about Kim Kardashian. Would she speak out? Would she say something? She obviously has now at this point. I bring her up only because she is a super famous ambassador for the brand, or at least has been an ambassador for the brand. Is there long-term damage here, given the optics? Do we know? Can we say that yet, according to the experts you're talking to? Or do we still have to kind of wait and see?
Well, Hallie, like you said, the optics here are bad. There's no question about it. Even online on social media, hashtag cancel Balenciaga is trending. But we'll have to wait and see how they do in the court of public opinion, because even Kim Kardashian there leaving the door open for a resolution in terms of keeping her options open with the brand. She says that her decision in the future on whether or not she will keep her relationship with the company depends on their actions going forward and how they will continue to protect children, is what she says. So it seems that their response today, the statement that came out, was in a response to her demands. So we'll see what happens. Hallie?
Nyla, Charles, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And that does it for us for this hour. It's good to be back with you on this post-holiday Monday. We'll have more for you here tomorrow, same time, same place. Coverage picks up right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.